So, Premal, welcome. We are very happy to have you here with you.
So nice. I feel such a sweet feeling towards Brazil, Brazilians, your language. And I'm just always, it's like such a precious feeling to be connected. And yesterday I looked on Spotify, like on the stats or something. And always Brazil is like the top country to listen to our music on Spotify.
Wow.
And it's always so difficult to arrange tours there because of logistical reasons. So we've only been 3 times to Brazil, and the last time was going to be 2020, and then it all didn't work out and we couldn't come in the end. So I hope we get another chance sometime.
Yeah, we too.
Yeah.
We hope to.
Yes.
So, first question. How did Osho come into your life? Please tell us.
So I think the reason why he came into my life so early, which was when I was really 10 years old, was because my parents were so open and practicing Eastern spirituality ever since I was born, from before I was born. But for me, in my life, ever since I was born, that it was a natural thing to encounter a spiritual master, an Indian guru at such an early age, because I was already in that field, although I grew up in Germany and I went to school and I had a normal life on the outside. But through my parents, I was, especially my father, I was singing mantras at night and reciting a Zen parable called The 10 Bulls of Zen every lunchtime, and like meditating, maybe not so much like here we're going to sit and meditate, but little daily like practical meditations that my father put into my life, like saying Om each time I put something down, or Ram each time I put on the light, switch on the light, things like that. So it was all very natural for me, that whole world, that whole Eastern world, and also the concept of a guru or a master wasn't strange to me. And my father was so thorough, he did everything so thoroughly. So if he meditated 10 years, 4 hours a day of mantra chanting from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Or if he meditated, he would do the yogic practices that were really very challenging and difficult. Or he would study Sanskrit and then make himself a Sanskrit dictionary, German Sanskrit, which nobody needed. That's why it doesn't exist. But he made it his own, so things like that. He just really, he was very disciplined also. So he just went deeply into all these different paths and Kabbalah and meditation, yoga. Reading the Upanishads, reading Gurdjieff. I think he's the only guy I know that read Beelzebub's tales to his grandson 3 times or something.
Wow.
I mean, he really gave everything to it. He never went to India his whole life, but he just really immersed himself in that wisdom. And when he came across Osho, which was in 1980, I guess, he was like, now I found it. I don't need to read anything else now. It's all, Osho has it all. It's all united in Osho's message and his discourses and his books. I can find the essence of all the things that I've been exploring and learning. I can find it all there. I don't need anything else. And, he would never go to India, or because he didn't want to ever go to a place where he couldn't speak the language. He didn't want to be a tourist. So for him it was really just try to just read the books, meditate and be connected and appreciative. But for my mother, although she was 49 at that point, she was somehow ready for an adventure, which she wasn't really that kind of adventurous soul, I mean, I guess she was, but she wasn't like somebody who would travel everywhere alone or something. But she actually did go to India in the beginning of 1981, which was when Osho was still in his ashram there in Pune. It was kind of the end, few months of the ashram in Pune at that point, which I'm sure if you've been, if you've been listening to more of Abiru's interviews, you heard maybe about Pune 1. So that was called Pune 1. And she went there on her own. And my father, Wolfgang, he took my sister and me to Osho centers while she was in India. She just went there for 6-7 weeks, but somehow, of course, it's a long time, especially when you're 10 years old. And he took us to an Osho center called Purvodaya near Munich. And everybody in red, this was the end of kind of hippie times, everybody in robes with long beards, long hair. I still remember arriving there and eating there in that room with everybody. It was kind of an old farmhouse, or like a farm with all these different barns and rooms and houses. And I still remember nobody taking any note of us. We were just eating there with everybody. And nobody reached out and said hello or welcome or something. That is that's a very typical, I find quite a typical expression of the sannyas world, because it's not polite. We took it because we were trying to take everything, spiritually. We took it like, wow, this is so that our egos are not inflated. They're doing this so we don't get ego nourishment here. I felt sometimes, we as a community could have sometimes, I felt, could have been more loving and caring and welcoming. And there was such a thing. And I felt there was a conditioning that we had in those days, that we were just going to we weren't going to be polite. There was such an allergy against being like you are supposed to be in society. And then I think we went a little bit over to the other side a little too strongly. And that's also actually a beautiful thing, because it wasn't a social club either, like you couldn't go there and people would just, you would just be connecting, and it wouldn't be about that, you wouldn't go because of that. You would go because you wanted to be there and you wanted to do your meditation. So that's also a beautiful thing. But sometimes when you were a new person in there, or a shy person, then it was a little difficult to enter, or to feel welcome, or to find your way in it. And you think everybody is in it and you're out of it in the beginning, although nobody's really in it. Everybody's in their own thing, So I just remember then the dynamic meditation happens, this very intense meditation. It happens at 6 a.m. with the breathing and the catharsis and the who and all that. And I was just, I'm going to do it, 10 years old. I didn't have any doubt that I was going to do it. And then Kundalini, and it was just very natural and very kind of just like a natural thing to do. They're natural. And somebody asked me then already, I think somebody asked me then, or maybe sometime, and would you like to be a sannyasi? And I was like, yeah, of course. It was like, and nobody, that maybe brings a wrong picture. Nobody would ever. That was also what I loved about our community. Nobody wanted anybody to be part of it. It was never, ever a sense of wanting to get somebody to join. There was nothing to join anyway. And so that was my first introduction to the meditations. I didn't understand Osho's English or English at all. Couldn't speak English. I definitely didn't read his books at that point. So I had actually no real idea what the message was. I just felt home and good and natural. And my mom came back from Pune, and she came back as a sannyasin, and she had the name Gyan Viten, which is almost like Miten, but with a V. 10. And
What's the meaning?
the meaning is beyond knowledge. Vit,
Beyond.
beyond, and Gyan could be wisdom, or but in her case, it's knowledge. So that was like, wow, okay. And the interesting thing was she was called Vimalakirti. My father had given her the name Vimalakirti, and that was the name I used to call her as a kid growing up until then. Actually, I called her Vim. And she arrived in Pune on the 6th or 7th of January, which is right around the time when Vimalakirti left his body in Pune. And I felt it was an auspicious kind of synchronicity, because it was leaving, that phase was over in my mom's life. So then from that day on, when she came back, we found the Osho Center in Nuremberg, and that's where we spent our weekends meditating, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And after a few months, I said, I really would like to become a sannyasin, but I'm so shy. I don't want to wear the red clothes and the mala to school, that's too much. So I first thought I wasn't going to do it then in school, and I was just going to do it at home. But the letter took so long to come back, the letter with the name, long to come back from India, that in that time I realized this is not the way to do it. If you do it totally. And so when I got my name, which was Deva Premal, which means divine loving, I put on the red clothes and the mala with his picture. And for 7 years, I went to school like that, and never had any bad experience or nothing. So that's how I entered my life as guided by the light of Osho, and maybe, I'm sure this has been said also in your interviews, that usually we call ourselves with a second name. We say, like, if Osho gave us 2 names, it would be, the first one would be a kind of a prefix, and the second one would be like the more personal name. And so for me it was Premal, and so for the first 24 years of my sannyas life, everybody knew me as Premal. But I never liked the sound of it, although it's such a beautiful meaning, but the sound I was always uncomfortable with, because it gets pronounced so differently in different languages. And so I never really knew how to say my own name, and people would never remember it anyway. So later, Meten gave me the idea, why don't you just call yourself Deva? So easy. And that's what I did, and that's why I'm now called Deva, and it is really very easy, and it's very relaxing.
Yes.
That's a good one. Yeah. We used to call the first name the family name. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we called it prefix, and then you had this idea of what people were like, who were Devas and Anandas or Anands. But Deva is a beautiful sound, and divine loving. I mean, it's such beautiful meaning, and it is really, when I look at my life, this is really basically that's what I love most, is love. And for me, love is the sharing of the music, and the mantras is to create love. To share love, to give space for love to happen, and it's maybe less about the music, being a musician, but it's really about creating this harmonious space for love to have a sound, So I felt, and then nature, in nature, I always feel that feeling of divine love, this feeling of being surrounded by a loving, and then also feeling it within, in love with creation, and being loved by creation, and being grateful for that. And so I feel like I really resonate with the meaning of the name.
Only curiosity of our friends. How?
I mean,
your friends in school deal with that?
I mean, I realized they were more shy than I was. You know, they were more shy to ask. This is Germany, so people are a bit reserved, you know, that you don't. But sometimes some teachers made fun, or made fun in a sweet way.
Okay.
But actually, the first time I saw Osho was in '83. I was 13, and it was the first annual World Celebration, or whatever it's called. And it was right in the time in school, during school time. And instead of saying I'm sick, we just really went to the headmaster and said, we want to go. My mom went to the headmaster and said she wants to go to Oregon. Can she be off school? And I was, I think, 10 days of school. And he was so yeah, he said, yeah, you can only have 2 days of religious holiday, but doesn't it take you 3 days each way to get there and back? And, you know, like he was really trying to stretch it. And so I went kind of legally, or totally legally, to from school to see Osho for the first time. And that was incredible, you know, being in Oregon, just sitting there in satsang in the morning, and him coming in and just crying and being like, wow, this is unreal, this is surreal, you know, this is and I just loved always the community, that feeling of being in a community. I loved that it was vegetarian, because I grew up vegetarian, and I always felt different because of that. Or I always had to ask, what can I eat? What can't I eat? And I felt so at home being in Osho places, to be able to just eat. That made me feel like really relaxed. And just the feeling that when you meet somebody in those days, you know, when you went in the city, and there was somebody in red and mala, you knew you could just go to them and talk to them, and there would be you didn't have to introduce or small talk, or it just was like you just knew you have that common denominator. And that's really so precious. And I feel it happens now, you know, in the world of yoga and meditation, but it's not so easy sometimes to recognize each other, which was nice, you know, now it's the mantra beats. I don't know, but we will find each other.
You know, you said something to Swaram that really resonated with that. You said, when Osho told us to drop red and the mala, I was so sad about that, because I loved to use it so much. Yeah, I heard you saying something similar. Yeah.
So I wore it 2 years longer than he said. And then at 17 I went to Pune for the first time, and then I was supposed to not wear red and mala entering India, because apparently the Indian officials didn't like us, so I don't know what the idea was. And so I bought my first blue jeans and white t-shirt, and I never forget that feeling, walking through the city, like totally blending in with everybody. Quite a feeling.
You stayed in Rajneeshpuram, and could you tell us about the experience there?
Yeah, no, I didn't stay there. I only went there
For 10 days. No.
2 times. One time the festival, which was this special, you know, 15,000 people with a satsang every morning, and legally in terms of their rules, kids under 15 or something weren't supposed to come to satsang, or we were supposed to be in the back in a certain corner or something, not to disturb. And I'd get away with it that I looked older than I was. So I remember being in line at 5 a.m. in the morning for a 9 a.m. satsang or something, or I don't know what time, just to be in the front, because 15,000 people is a lot of people to be in one hall, you know. So I was really, really eager. And that was just to be in that environment where you know everybody is basically family. That was beautiful. And then a year later, I went there with my mother also because she was a teacher too. So we would always go during school holidays together. And I was 14 and I worked in the truck farm, which was, I was working in a greenhouse. And that was a taste of daily life there, because getting up at 6 a.m. to catch the old school bus, which they used there to get to work. And then singing the Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami as a kind of an opening prayer for the day in the hay, between the hay bales, and then working in the greenhouse with Sagapriya, who was a therapist later on for psychic massage, as my boss, and French Deepak, who did a lot of Feldenkrais later, as my working partner, and just so beautiful to, and I loved the rides with the bus where everybody would sing, just spontaneously, we would just sing together, and there was just, everybody was just happy to be on that bus going to work. It wouldn't be like, and be together and be. I was really happy. Yeah, I was really, and I hear now we worked 16 hours a day. I have no idea the time. I just remember 6 a.m. We got there, and I don't know when we stopped, but it definitely was a beautiful flow. Yeah.
Can you sing a little the music that you used to sing in the bus?
I don't remember. It's a good question. I don't remember what we used to sing there, but at that point, and it must have been at that point. Yeah, what I do remember is that Osho used to come for drive-by every day, so we could see him every lunchtime to just catch a glimpse while he's driving by very slowly. And he would come back also. So if you had the time, or I think not everybody did it, but you could wait for an hour and then he would come back and you could see him again. And there was one tree where all the old Indian sannyasins always met, under this tree with, I think it was Taru, who was his main singer, also in Pune 1, as she was the leader, but there was also all Jyoti and all the beautiful Indian disciples. They would sing there together, Nivedita, I think also. And I would always be there with them. And then we would sing for that hour under the tree till he came back. And I just remember that was like Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat. Things like that, like all the Indian kirtan. At that point I had no idea I was gonna sing things like that. but I was more the Indian, and that was because Osho always just encouraged us to be ourselves. So obviously the Indian people would sing their music and chants and mantras, and the Westerners would sing and chant or sing their songs. So there was all the Indians gathering there, and it was just a beautiful time under that tree. It was only 3 weeks, but it feels like a really long time, it feels like I really got a real taste of it. Beyond politics, that was in 83, so then it was still quiet, and there was no Sheila kind of, I didn't know anything, feel anything. Only later I felt like, I'm not really enjoying how she talks in interviews, and I'm not behind that, and I don't really want to. I was ashamed, that she would be like that. But in that time, it was still early days.
As you were singing, I remember we love to interview Indian people, Indian sannyasins are so beautiful, yeah. And Also, Osho's brother, Shailendra, we did 3 with him, and he talks a lot about Om.
Oh.
The Om. There is a discourse he named The Glory of Om.
Oh, wow.
And he explains the whole meaning of it given by Osho in Hindi discourses.
Oh.
So beautiful, so
Oh, wow.
beautiful.
We sent to you.
Yeah, I'd love to see. Is Shailendra the one who played tabla also?
I don't know. He's a doctor. Yeah, he's a physician.
Okay.
He's the youngest brother of Osho.
Second younger brother of Osho. And
Okay.
it's funny, he dressed like Osho with the hat and the
Oh, really?
robe.
The
Yeah,
beard.
yeah.
Okay.
He looks very much like him.
Yeah.
And how
Sweet.
about Pune? How was it for you, Premal? Deva.
Deva.
Now you can say it. But Brazilians, they say Premal.
Premal, yeah.
Premal.
That was when I was 17 and going there for the first time as in my summer holidays for 6 weeks, again with my mother, because she was also still a teacher. And yeah, it was just like, wow, it was just so, again, like very, very beautiful being in India for the first time and experiencing India, and so excited to be in India and experience and also again feeling at home. Like I remember also, I had my bicycle and I would drive back at night from the ashram to where I was staying, and I wasn't scared, it just felt all very safe and very, very peaceful. That was a nice feeling as well. And then just just really enjoying being there. I don't think I did anything much in that first time, 6-7 weeks. I don't think I did groups or worked or anything. I don't remember that. But just feeling very like just at home. I think that's really the word. And then again, when I was 18, we went again 6 weeks. And that was this, I'm sure I said this in Swaram's interview as well. That was when we were going to go 6 weeks, and I had 1 more year left to go to school after the 6 weeks. So again, my mother was there. We hardly saw each other, but whenever we did run into each other, I would say, oh, I really don't want to go home. I want to stay. And on the last day, when we were ready to leave the next day, she said to me, she would pay for me if I wanted to stay.
Wow.
She said, I'll pay for you. You can stay. You decide. And somehow in those days with tickets, it was a bigger thing, like to whether to use that ticket or not. I think it wasn't like, oh, you just book it and you can go a little later. It was like either you now like almost lose the ticket or something. It was like a feeling of 24 hours. I have to make this decision, which is going to be quite final in a way, And I really decided to stay. I'm still kind of impressed with myself that I did that. And she went to school, told them she's not coming back. They even asked her, are you sure she's not coming back? I was really good at school. It was really easy, and they couldn't really understand why I would want to not finish my school, which was just 1 more year, and then I would have had this nice little kind of certificate. And she said, no, she's really not coming back. And they said, okay, we erase her from the system or whatever. And then she left, and then I was like, oh no, what did I do? Like the first few weeks, I was so lost, and I was like, oh God, what did I do? Why did I now become one of the losers, one of the standing losers who don't finish their education? I don't like that word loser. It's horrible. I don't want to have said that. I wanted to be able to do something later that would be good and that would be meaningful, and not and for that I thought I needed a education of some kind, a good kind of proper education. Maybe that's what I thought. And And then I asked Osho, what should I do? Like, I just feel totally lost and I don't feel like I have any ground under my feet. Should I go back to school? Should I stay? And I still remember being called in and in the office, and they asked me more questions about it, which was really touching because I didn't think anybody would really care that much about this little question from one of us. Thousands of people who ask questions. And then she said, yeah, Osho wants to know more about the circumstances. And then the answer came back, which was, in those days, you got these little yellow little pieces of paper with 5 sentences. And the sentence was, go back to school, finish your school. You can always come in the holidays. And that was it. And then that was already 6 weeks in. I was already 6 weeks, beyond the beginning of school. So there was no point, and it wasn't possible to join the school year at that point. So I decided I stay for 1 year and then I go back. And in that year, I worked in the garden. That was really my thing. Again, in the garden, I just loved being with the plants and going there at 6 a.m. to water the plants. I also did dynamic actually every day. So for almost a year, I did dynamic. Maybe that was the time. I think that was maybe that year. I don't know. So somewhere like that. And then in that year, what else did I do? I basically just worked in the garden and did maybe some groups here and there. Mm-hmm. And that was also the year that Osho was still in his body. It was 88 to 89. Unfortunately, I was not there for the last discourses. That was in April. He came out for 1 more week. And because there was always this thing, he's going to come out, and then he didn't. And it happened so many times that, again, they said he's going to come out. And I thought, oh, he's again not going to come out. So I went to Goa, which was a bit of a thing we weren't supposed to do anyway, but I was 18 and I was in love with a guy and I wanted to be with that guy. It was not working out, but anyway, I was not there for that week, which is sad. I really came back that day when he had given his last not discourse, but I think it was just satsang, or maybe, I don't know.
That white robe meeting with him.
Yeah. There was still a discourse at that point. He was still talking. Or maybe not. I don't know. And then I was there for that year. And then I went back to Finnish school, which was not very nice because, of course, after 1 year of being free on my own in India, school wasn't that kind of exciting. But it was a good learning because, first of all, I made some money during school time. I would go in the afternoon to clean. And then I was also a postman for a while to earn money so I could go back to Pune. And then also the learning that I really didn't like that feeling of waiting for something to be finished. I was counting the days until I could go back to Pune. And I felt like this is really not how I want to live my life. And it almost felt like maybe I made some kind of vow there because that's not how I lived my life after that. I was somehow lucky in my life that that work and enjoyment hasn't been separate, and creativity and all that's all on love has all been one thing. And I went back, and then during that year he left his body, so I missed that. I was exactly in the middle of that, and that was a shock. And also because I was never close personally to him anyway, it was also not really that different, like it was, I could still feel his flavor and his guidance in Pune after that for the next 10 years very strongly. And it was pretty much the same even when he was in the body, although things didn't change anymore after he left his body. And that's what kept us in the moment and on our toes, that he would change rituals, or he would change things that we would, wear red robes or do gibberish in the evening meditation or things like that, which were unexpected and would keep things fresh and in the flow, so that it felt like when he left his body, things came to a kind of a state of solidity, and that's how they are, I guess, still now. I don't know. And so I'm really, really grateful I was there for that time, and that 10 years after, when I still, with Miten, we went to Pune still every winter for a few months, 6 months or something, till 1999, December, we went the last time to Pune. So.
And when you met Miten in your life?
So that was after school finished. I went again back to Pune as quickly as I could, and my mother again paid for me, she actually paid for me for 3 years being in Pune.
Wow.
I mean, and she was definitely not wealthy on a worldly level. So she really just did that because she felt that would have been the most beautiful thing for her, and she lived it through me, but completely without any envy. She was just so happy for me to, and then I would write her letters. I remember like 60-page letters on this airmail paper that somebody would then bring to Germany or something to make her be part of, have her be part of the experience. And I still have those letters, and actually here I'm sitting exactly in her room right now, where she always would have received those letters. And so I went back to Pune, and then I wanted to become or do trainings. I really liked body work, so I signed up for shiatsu training. As soon as I got to Pune at 19 years old, I was or 20 years old. At that point, I did what was called the Divine Healing Training with Prashantam and Abhyana for 3 months. And that was my first entry into body work and learning how to give sessions and being in a group for so long, and I loved it. That's how during that training is when I met Miten. I needed a model for sessions to practice, and he was, when I had to look for a model, he was the first one I saw when I came out the group room. So I thought, oh, maybe he's nice enough, and I know him enough. I hardly knew him, but we had talked maybe once or twice before, and I just thought, oh, I can ask him, and he said yes.
They started in Divine Healing Arts training. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful. Premal, Deva. Could you tell us about the power of mantras? How did it come into your life? And it's so meaningful on your work with Miten, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, the mantras are like a carrier of love and a carrier of wisdom that is beyond concepts and scriptures and emotions. Because with the mantras, you sing and you totally give yourself, but you don't have a story behind it. When you sing songs, you still have a story of the text, of the lyrics of the song, or all the ideas and connotations, and maybe also pain or whatever you have that you carry with each of the words of the song. If there's the word love in a song, not everybody hears the same thing when they hear love. They have a whole personal connection to what love means in their life. But with mantras, it's pure. It's like we are all totally fresh and we have no baggage around, for example, the word prem, which is love, prem, or anand, bliss. Maybe we don't even know that it means love or bliss, but it is the pure essence of that quality. So when we sing this, we don't need to know what it means. We can just give ourselves to that mantra, and by repeating it, we really give ourselves to the mantra. We really absorb the frequency, and then we can experience that doorway into silence. And that's what I always feel like. The mantras are each a different doorway into that space of oneness, So you can't use a wrong doorway if it gets you all to the same place. You just use the door that you enjoy. And the melodies, they make that pathway into silence even more enjoyable. They adorn the door and the garden that you walk through to get to that space or to find yourself in that space of silence and oneness. And I grew up with the mantras, like because of my father, like I said. So he had us sing and chant the Gayatri mantra as a good night song every night as a child.
Wow.
So I don't know. I must have chanted it until I was 9 or 10, or maybe 8 or 9. I don't know, but I just remember singing it every night, first with them, then by myself 3 times, and then Satchit Ananda, Satchit Ananda, Satchit Ananda. And that was my personal mantra that he had given me. And then later, like when I was 8 or 9, then I wanted to become Christian, and then I did the Lord's Prayer secretly, kind of under the blanket. Although they really didn't mind. They really didn't have any. My mother grew up Christian. She was leading church choirs, Christian church choirs. And my father had learned the Gospel of Matthew by heart, and then wrote it down in calligraphy and then illustrated it. So they appreciated the essence of Christianity also. But they hadn't baptized me, so I wanted to get baptized when I was 8 or 9, which I didn't get around doing. So but I had this phase of wanting to become. Basically, I just wanted to be normal at that point. I just thought, if I'm Christian and baptized, I'm more like everybody else, and that felt desirable to me at that point. And so the mantras came. Because that's when I let them go, when I had the choice, when I didn't anymore do what my parents told me. And Osho had no mantras in his regular meditation. So if you were an Indian with a kirtan, it wasn't like something that we did every day as Osho sannyasin. So I didn't sing or chant mantra at all much from maybe 10 or 11 to 26. Here and there a little bit, but not nothing kind of in depth. And then at 26, 27, I rediscovered the Gayatri mantra at Osho Leela in England, when friends of us were singing and chanting it there, Tarisha and Somesh. And then realizing that this is my home, and I know this already, which was surprising to me that somebody else knew it as well. And then realizing that's my song, and that when I sing and chant these mantras, that I feel very comfortable in singing, which I was very much shy before singing with Miten. I was too shy to sing alone. I loved singing with him, and it was totally, still now love singing with him, but I was always too shy to be heard alone. So when the mantras came, then that shyness fell away.
Okay. Wow.
Yes, I remember in the beginning of coronavirus pandemic, being with you guys every day at 5 o'clock here. It was so beautiful, so supportive.
Yes.
Supportive. It was a strange time. And that's when Gayatri Sangha started, and the app. How was it?
Yeah, that's so beautiful that happened. I remember your comments also. It was always so sweet. And it was beautiful because we were there in Costa Rica. That's where life had brought us, at that point. I mean, it was really existential. And we just really wanted to do something to contribute, because we felt so blessed to be there in nature. And how can we share what we have been given in this way? And like everybody else, we all went online. I mean, that was the obvious thing to do. And then we thought we'd do it the whole way through, of course, not realizing that the whole way through wasn't going to be possible or would be years. So we did 77 days, but in these 77 days, we did realize the power of a virtual community, and that it's so tangible, and it can be felt, and it really exists. And I think many people also came to know about the mantras in us during that time that didn't know before. That's what we hear, the feedback we've been getting. And then when it ended 77 days, it was a beautiful number to make a change. And we went online only every Saturday. And that we have done pretty much ever since, except when we were on tour. But otherwise, for the last 3 years, we've been every Saturday online sharing our meditation. And then wanting to find a home for this community that is not connected to Facebook or Instagram, so that it's free and standalone. And that's when we created the app, the Gayatri Sangha app. And it's such a beautiful space. I don't know, just even thinking about it, it makes me just smile. I just feel, I can feel that community. And I can feel the connection and the love. And of course, there's some people that are more vocal than others. Some people post, some people don't. But you get a sense of a beautiful group that is then gets to see each other in the live events. So, like suddenly you meet somebody whose name you've always seen for months but never met, and suddenly, oh, that's you. This is nice. It's a beautiful space, really nice. Like tonight's Mitten's chai time, so that's always a time to connect like this with the members, with our Gayatri Sangha members. So it's really, really nice.
Beautiful. This program of interviews started during the pandemic also. We're gonna make anniversary in September, 3 years.
Okay, great. And how many interviews have you done?
Now we have done, that's already broadcasted, 120, but we have recorded already more, 12. So lots of work. We are kind of non-stop. We want to take as many as possible to honor Osho. That's our way to give it something back, Premal, how do you feel Osho today, individually and collectively?
That's a really beautiful question. I noticed that in myself, when I connect to the existential light or oneness or love, that when I focused on Osho, I would make it smaller in myself. It would feel like a point, like I'm concentrating on a point. And then it would feel like, and then there is the vastness of it, of the and somehow at some point I realized I don't want, and that's maybe the connection to the person of Osho, that I took that away, that sense of that there is a point to focus on, but it's actually just the oneness, so it's like a window, as if that Osho is a window, and I through that window then comes the, so I took the window away. And so now it feels like I feel more like we are universally connected somehow, I feel like more like a divine, I like the word great divine spirit, that somehow sums it up for me.
Yeah.
And that feels without any kind of also limitation, because that's in everything and includes everybody and everything. So for me now, that's what I swim in, and I'm very, very grateful to Osho for the life that I've been given, because that person Osho that created these things that are tangible today, they wouldn't be there without him, and my life is like totally. I owe everything to that person Osho that created things in this world, in this 3D world, So I'm really totally grateful, especially for Miten, like, oh my God, what an amazing blessing to have met Miten and be with him so long and in love, and it's just incredible.
Mm.
Can you say one word for Osho?
Yes.
The cosmic yes, yeah.
Cosmic. Entrou até uma luz aí, a light in the virus room.
Yes, the sun is getting to my camera here.
The window of Osho. Beautiful light. I met you and Miten here in Brazil in 1996, maybe, when you do a workshop here.
Where?
In São Paulo.
Was it Shrada? No.
Sananda. Sananda produced, maybe Osho Ajar.
Sharada or something.
So,
yeah.
I remember it was a very beautiful workshop. We don't ask about your work. And
when is it the next retreat in Costa Rica?
Yeah, we found our home in Costa Rica, and so we do quite a lot of retreats there, and the next one will be in December, last week of this year. And we do them 3 times a year, kind of December, March, and June. And it's just very, 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 very beautiful, to be singing together in that environment of being near the ocean and in Costa Rica.
How many days?
A week.
Days? A week? Wow.
Hi.
Oh wow. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go for it. Deva, for the end, would you sing a bit of the Gayatri for us?
Om Bhurvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, beloved. Hope to see you soon, either in Brazil or Costa Rica. Okay.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All love to you both. See you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste, beloved.
Murmuvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam